Hola chicos, este es el segundo video número 2 sobre los verbos de cambio ortográfico, otherwise known as an English spell change in the yo form verbs in the present tense. Y vamos a hablar otra vez de la G, que puede ser problemático, ¿no? Can be definitely problematic. So vamos a mirar 4 verbos: coger, escoger, elegir y dirigir. Los dos verbos que nosotros tenemos que saber, that we need to know vocabulary-wise, are these two. Escoger means to choose. And elegir also means to choose, but it can also mean to elect, like to elect a president, for example. So en noviembre, nosotros vamos a elegir Barack Obama o Mitt Romney. And escoger is more to just choose someone. There's a lot of verbs in Spanish for to choose. Coger is a verb that means to take. It can mean to grab. It can mean to catch in some places. And dirigir is a verb that means to direct. These verbs are great to add to your arsenal, your vocabulary, but these are the ones that we absolutely need to know what they mean, que son súper importantes. ¿Y qué pasa con estos verbos? Estos verbos son, I call them G to J verbs. And why does that happen? Well, in class we talked about and we spelled and we pronounced words that use this G. So let's take the first verb that we have, the verb elegir, and let's just talk about it. So, ¿cuáles son las características de este verbo? Pues este verbo tiene la G, got the G in it. And we know the G can either make the hard G G sound or the soft H sound that we know. So, ¿qué pasa con este verbo? This one is followed by an I, and we know that if a G is followed by an E or an I, it's going to take that H sound. So that means that this verb is pronounced elegir. That means that every form of this verb, when it's conjugated, needs to sound like its infinitive. It needs to have that H sound in it. That's the key. The infinitive is what sort of dictates the pronunciation of the rest of the verb. Hugely important. So, vamos a conjugar este verbo. I'll do it in a different color. So este verbo, la forma de yo, needs to be pronounced elijo. Now what people do is that they quickly write this down because that they're thinking sort of methodically, and they're just looking at the G here and they're saying this. They don't say it to themselves. This is pronounced, if you stop to take a second and look at it, it's pronounced eligo, but you want elijo. And the only way that you can do that to make that sound is with a J. So here's your sort of irregularity. That makes complete sense because it needs to sound like the infinitive, elijo. Now, ¿qué pasa con las otras formas? Eliges, elige, eligimos, eligís y eligen. Lo que pasa es que en estas otras formas no hay ningún cambio. Son colores de la Navidad, Christmas colors. No hay ningún cambio because look what happens. The G, just like in the infinitive, is followed by an E or an I, so it's making the Ch sound. No need for a change. In the yo form, if we have a G here, if we have a G here, it's pronounced go. Instead of elijo, we have eligo. So esta es la forma y esta es la parte irregular. This stuff is going to come back to haunt us again when we study the past tenses. So it's important that we understand it and we know it now. Bien, so vamos a pasar al próximo verbo. Let's just be thorough. El otro verbo es escoger. Y la verdad es que es completamente igual. If we look at this verb and we study a little bit, we still have, we know, this Ch sound because the G is followed by an E. So we need to maintain that Ch sound. People will do this because they see the G here and they say, oh, I cut off my ending, I add my ending. But you now have escogo, right? Escogo in the infinitive is pronounced escoger. So eso no va. So la misma cosa, la misma regla aplica. Same rule applies here. La forma de yo es escojo. The only way to make a Ch sound in front of an O is with a J. Las otras formas, you guessed it, son completamente regulares. So conjugamos este verbo como todos los otros verbos regulares. No hay cambio, no change. So, same thing. This is all completely regular. This isn't a boot, by the way. I guess you could kind of look at it as a reverse boot. Pero lo que pasa aquí es que esta es la forma irregular. And again, we call it irregular, but is it really all that irregular? All we're doing is maintaining the sound. Okay? So, bien. So, este es el último video, the last video on these G verbs. Remember, up till this point, I think this is the 4th video on spell change verbs. So, en la próxima clase, we are going to be taking a quiz on this stuff, so be sure that we're ready to go on that. Take a look at the other videos if you need to. Muchas gracias por su atención. Nos vemos en clase. Chao.